What's up, YouTube? It is your boy, Max, and as you can see in the background, Smite is safe moded, so we are doing a tier list live on stream with the chat below. So Twitch chat can show you guys and say hi and whatnot, and you can see all the people in the stream. It might be a little ineligible, but whatever. So this is going to be the updated tier list. Today is 9/9. This will probably go up 9/10 or the day after that. I'm not sure, but we will see. And we're going to go respectively in order of my order. There you go. We'll start the tier list off with Rama. Rama is an E tier character. This character's terrible. Don't pick him. He's bad. He doesn't win any. Who am I fucking kidding, huh? Rama's an S tier character. This character's insane. All the buffs that happened to him, the patch a couple patches ago with the astral arrow regeneration and the alt cooldown reduction, the 2s, the 3, the yada yada yada. This character got buffed on like all 4 of his abilities. The build path's absolutely perfect for him. He's good into the meta hunters. He shreds frontliners. He's hard to counter. He's an easy god to play. He's quite safe. He could deal damage on the backline to the backliners with his ultimate. He also takes himself out of combat, so he's untargetable. He's an overall extremely good character, very simple character, a character that many people can play to a very high potential. I mean, Cyclone Spin plays him and does well, so that should say quite a lot. Hands that man. Come on. If those guys can do it, seriously, anybody can. Yeah, Rama's probably one of the best hunters there is in the game right now. Very easy, very consistent, very OP. Play the character. Moving on to the next character on this list who's seen quite some play. We're going to see Cupid. Cupid's going to go up into the A+ tier for the same reasons. Cupid receives a pretty nice quality of life buff on his 1. Allowed him to full clear waves with this 1 without having to stay in auto, which does make a big deal. It increases the time that it takes for you, or decreases the time it takes for you to farm. Allows you to 1 and kind of leave the lane and go do other things for yourself in that lane. On top of that, he's got a great build path this patch, with the pen build still being so relevant, with tanks building so much HP, Kins being such a good item to buy. Having an attack speed steroid in this kit without even having to use an ability, so he obviously gets good value from the silver branch. He's really good into all the meta characters. He shits on tanks, and he's just a good character. So if Rama's not available and you're looking to win a ranked game, pick Cupid. Seriously, the character's really good and is worth your time. Moving on we'll move on to Heim. I think Heim is somewhere in between the A tier and the A+ tier. He's somewhere in the middle there. Based on where you pick him and what you pick him into, he could very easily be A tier or A+ tier, and then some comps he can obviously feel a bit worse and be dove more. Whoa. Just like be dove harder and whatnot, and actually not get too much value out of the pick. But I think this character's really good. He's got quite a versatile build path. He can go the trans build, he can go the devil's build. He could do whatever the hell he wants. Pretty much in every different case he can play a different build, or you can use a different build with him. He's very good. He's pretty decent to the meta characters. Not so great, but not terrible. He's good at peeling for himself. He's good at peeling for mages, and overall the nerfs that hit him were pretty impactful, but I do think this character is still quite a powerful character, especially once you get to that late game and that mid game. You really start swinging. So I think Heim can be A tier, can be A+ tier, but we'll put him in A+ tier just to just to spice up the tiers a little bit, huh? Next up we have Shingway. I think Shingway is a hard A tier character. I think this character can go up and down a tier based on the comps you pick her into, but she's a pretty consistent character who does pretty well in most scenarios you can put her in. She's okay into the meta character. She's obviously got quite a couple build paths that she can go, but what makes her pretty sick is that she has a pretty nice escape. She can obviously fly back to that lane and hyper farm. And she's just a pretty good character. You can go the rage build with her, where you can go rage into Kims. You can just go rage. She's obviously a good character with crit because she has built-in crit. She has a built-in steroid. So you can actually go the silver branch build as well. She's pretty hard to dive. She has a knock up Well, not knock-up immunity, but she can dash off knock-up, so she's a pretty good character. Not too broken, but overall pretty good. Up next, we will have Uller. I think Uller is probably A+ tier, maybe A tier. Higher than Shingway, though. Depends on the comps. I think Uller's fallen out of the meta quite a bit because he doesn't have any CC immunity, and you kind of really want a hunter that has CC immunity for dive and a hunter that can build kins quite reliably. And even though you could probably be like, yeah, well, Uller has a attack speed turn in his ultimate, he's probably pretty good at the kins build. Yeah, but then it also requires you to go trans, and then the trans Aussie Atalantis kins build takes you a long time to get online. It's not quite as effective as going dev straight to kins. It lacks a good bit of lifesteal as opposed to the Devourer's Gauntlets build, and overall it's an okay build, but it's not seen too often simply because the characters that do use that build aren't seen as often either. And for that reason, I still think he's an okay character, but just not quite as good as he was before, since so many of the new characters are just building that pen build and kind of doing work with it. Hachi sits in this this A tier here as well. You're gonna probably see a lot of hunters in the A tier just because they're all pretty good. Hachi is pretty good into all three of these characters actually. Funny enough, he's just a good 1v1 character, especially if you utilize his passive well, and you know, Pelcat your opponent laner quite often using that 2 of yours, and you know, kind of force fights on them because you have the sustain advantage typically because you can buy extra pots since you don't need the mana. He also can go the rage build, he can go the crypt build, he can go the Kins and the Silver Bench build. His 2 is an attack speed start, so he does get good value out of it. And he's just a pretty solid character. I don't think he's too insane. I don't think he's just like, oh, pick me Hachi and I'm going to do work here, but I do think he can be picked into quite a plethora of gods and do some good work with that pick. So yeah, we'll put him around A tier. Next up, we will look at Neath. I'm gonna put Neath in B tier. I know in my previous tier list, I thought they'd be higher. Neath and Medusa both after their buffs. It was me being kind of generous, thinking that the buffs might actually do something to these characters and not really playing them that often. But they will be moving down in the tier list as opposed to the last tier list. Neath still suffers from the same issues where she's pretty easy to gank, even though her front flips faster or her back flips faster. She's still very telegraphed. She doesn't have that crazy of a landing phase. She's very easy to dive. She has no CC immunity. She's kind of stuck in this like weird point where you don't really know what you want to build on her. You can build auto attack and it feels okay. You can build full power and that feels quite alright, but it takes you a while to get your power items online. She's not quite great into the top hunters. In fact, I'm looking at pretty much everyone on this list and she doesn't really do well into any of them. And I think she's just like a pretty underwhelming character. Her buffs were nice. They're really good quality of life buffs. They were, you know, they were nice for the casual player base, but I think in high level ranked, if you pick this character and you don't have a comp built in mind or a playstyle that you want to play around, like, you know, I don't know, spamming your ult or something like that, then you're not really going to be doing too much work, and I don't really see why you would pick this character over the other characters above her. So, yeah, I'll put her around B tier. She's an okay character. She can do well, but she just doesn't do that well, you know? Up next, we will put Medusa in that same spot. I think Medusa could see some love, could see more love than she does currently, but the problem is it's this build path dynamic where you want a lot of these characters want to go trans to feel good with their kits, and what's just really popping right now is obviously the Devos Boots Kins build, or Devos Boots Atalantis Kins, however you want to you know, whatever the word is there, sequence that build. And what that'll do is put characters that want to build trans a little bit lower on the tier list, but Medusa's still fine. The trans build does do work with her. You get a lot of damage out of her one. It's 4 shots now, like before. But I don't know. She's still so underwhelming with her dash being blockable. She's just not a very hard god to dive. Her ult still has so many different bugs / like nuances where I don't know how many times I've been interrupted out of my ult. I also don't know how many times my ult is like missed or like done something weird where it should have, you know, finally, or should have hit but it didn't, or just like, you know, a bunch of different like things that kind of just ruin the characters like playability and just like the flow of the character and how the character should feel. And I think she's just an alright character, but I don't know, she doesn't feel too great to play, so I'll put her in B. Chernabog we have in A tier. I think I can even put this character somewhere in like high B tier. I probably should have like a B plus tier. Actually, yeah, let me do that real quick. B plus real quick. B, sorry boys, unprofessional tier, B plus tier. Boom. Chernabog, boom. So Chatterbox on a B plus tier because I don't think he's quite that bad. Like I don't know, I don't think he's terrible, but he has not like he doesn't really have great early pressure. He doesn't really do that well into the pressure picks, aka like these top hunters. He doesn't really do too well into them, which makes him a lot less valuable because the only way that any of these lower characters are going to be any good is if they're good into these top characters, and he's not. He's got a fine build path. I don't know. He just doesn't have a great early game. He's pretty easy to punish. He's pretty easy to kill. Pretty easy to dive. And honestly, even if he's in the sky and in a wall for 10 seconds in a team fight, you've already done your job as a diver, just making the backliner useless. Even if he doesn't actually die in the team fight, it's still not a great look for the character. If you don't utilize this global pressure and you don't, like, you know, set up ganks and set up plays and stuff like that, then he's not going to be a great character. So, yeah, he'll be in B+. Apollo, we will also put in B+. A lot of these characters will be in B+/A. The only reason Apollo's in B+, probably because he's so damn good at the silver bench build. You can get upwards of almost 100 power. Almost 100 power in the perfect scenarios, but most of the time you get around 50 extra power from the silver bench build. With his passive active, you get around 60. That's quite nice in those late game team fights. You really swing with those 5 autos. But Apollo still suffers from the same issues as before. He's got a very long wind up on his ultimate. His dash is very slow, very telegraphed. His mez is easy to play around. Honestly, this character's been in the game for about 10 years, so he's not a hard character to dive or kill or, you know, gank. Things. People know how to play the character and play around him. His one's pretty underwhelming, and I don't know. The character just feels not that insane. But if you do get to late game and you do actually get that silver bench finished up, you will be swinging quite hard. So that's one of his pros, I'd say. Artemis D tier. I don't remember where I put her on the last tier list. I think it was around here on D tier. The buff they gave to this character is pathetic. It really doesn't do shit to her. I mean, it makes maybe like 1 or 2 matchups a little bit more bearable, but it really doesn't do anything for the character. Doesn't change the way she plays, the way she feels in lane, the way she feels in 1v1s that much. She pretty much just feels literally the same. The only time she's going to feel different is maybe if she gets like 2 out of a Cupid ult or something like that, right? Besides that, it's really not that crazy, so I don't know. Until they give this character a dash, I'm not going to see her played or higher up on my tier list. I wish she was better, but quite frankly, she's just not. X-Ball, we will be putting in B tier, not even B+, because I think the character just needs Transcendence to function. And as aforementioned, Transcendence is not quite the meta right now. It's hard to get it in your builds. It's hard to do that build path and be really successful. You can just get third item kin size and just pop off no matter what. And, yeah, very underwhelming, very easy to kill, no CC immunity. The only thing going for this character is his ult. The placement of the tiers does matter, yeah, my bad. It's pretty much ordered exactly what I think. AMC, probably B+, probably in the lower, maybe ahead of Chernabog. AMC has pressure going for him. He's got the ability to clear waves very fast, you know, kind of sit up in your face and whatnot. He's got great, what is this? Is this a troll? It is a troll. He's got great mobility with his hives. If he gets a network of hives up through the jungle, then he's quite hard to gank. He obviously does utilize Silver Bench extremely well because he gets so much attack speed from the item with his Hives passive. And I think if you aren't getting camped and you have pressure in most lanes where you can actually play up on your tower line and actually do work with the character, then you're gonna be feeling really great with him. If not, you know, he's a no mobility, or a low mobility, easy to gank hunter with no CC immunity, so he can get farmed. But if you do get him through the early game, get him into the mid game, and actually, team fight with him, and he's not just getting dove in one shot, he will feel great. Cernanos, probably in the high B plus tier. I think he could be A tier, maybe, but I don't know. Cerna's really underwhelming as well. He's been through a series of nerfs in the past, and he hasn't been buffed in a long time. He can go the devs build, which is probably the only reason he's not C tier, and he's okay into some characters, but the character's ult is pathetic. Hard to hit. His 2 is pretty pathetic once you get behind. The only thing that he's got going for him is the fact that he can kind of one-shot and burst people with his 3. His 1's kind of good, and he has some magical shred for objectives. So if you have a nice burst mage or like a shred mage like Merlin, you can kind of burst objectives pretty easily with this character. Besides that, I don't see a reason why I'd ever really pick him. He's not really that great at anything. So, yeah. I'd probably put on the lower end of the A tier. I think he's better than the B tier characters, but he's kind of fallen out of the meta because a lot of the characters that are good have an attack speed steroid or something else going for them, and quite frankly, Hui does not. So he's kind of bad with Silver Branch, which makes him a lot less valuable because that is the meta build. Besides that, he's an okay character. He can snowball games. He can do very well into top hunters if he gets the ability to be very aggressive and actually do work with his, his jump and his ability to like kind of take 1v1s and force them. But besides that, he's not that great. He's not terrible, but until Silver Branch either gets nerfed or something, he won't really be picked too often. On her is in the same boat as Hui. He can do work, but he has no attack speed steroids, so the build path's really awkward for him. Not awkward, but just getting Silver Branch is a little awkward on that character. And I don't know, he's just an okay hunter. You can pick him if you want, but he really doesn't offer anything special. He's not that insane. He's okay. It's like Rama and Cupid, I guess, is probably the only reason you would be picking him. But besides that, he's just kind of underwhelming. Kyron, I actually think Kyron is probably ahead of Hui and on her, only because you're picking this character for a very specific reason. I know that I have mentioned before that the trans build, blah, 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 but the problem, or not the problem, the difference is that Kyron actually has the ability to hit backliners, which is quite a valuable thing to have on a carry. Not many carries have the ability to actually target the backliners, so, it's nice to be able to hit them. So when you go the full trans and power build, you actually can be one-shotting backliners in team fights. The only problem is he's pretty easy to dive because his dash is so slow. And if you're missing your ults, you're not going to have a good time. But if you're hitting all of your abilities with a full power build, you will be feeling great. So, Kyron's probably better than Hui and on her, only because these hunters don't fit the traditional playstyle, whereas Kyron has a little bit of an altered playstyle. So, yeah. Izanami, I'm going to put C tier. Still, his character's pretty ass still. Her dash very easy to catch. The only thing that's even good about her is that she can use Silver Branch well. Her pressure's pretty useless because she dies very, very easily. She has to stand in the middle of the waves to clear, which is pretty bad against most of these hunters, and she's very easy to gank. She has no CC immunity. Her ultimate's hard to connect, and she's just an overall pretty dog shit character. So, yeah. My opinion, of course. And then Scotty, we will put in probably low end of the B plus tier. I think this character can do work in some very niche scenarios, but you can't really pull her out because she's got no mobility. She's super easy to dive. Most of the meta junglers and meta supports right now just kind of farm the fuck out of Scotty. Her build path is obviously the same thing as all the times before that. All the things I've said before that, and she's just an overall like pretty character. Doesn't really do anything too crazy. Doesn't do anything exceptionally well or anything. So, yeah, she's a B tier character for sure. Freyja, I think we'll put Freyja. We're definitely gonna put Freyja in all of this list. I don't know about Soul and the rest of them because, quite frankly, I think they were only getting their moment of shining light, I guess, because of the Hecate buffs and whatnot. But with the Hecate nerfs, the Typhon's nerfs, the nerfs to the characters as well, I don't think that Freya I don't think that Soul and Kronos are great characters anymore. I think you can play them if you want to. You probably can do work if you want to in some games, but for the most part, the characters are just really bad, really easy to dive, and kind of don't do anything in team fights. But the two characters that will remain on this list that are still pretty relevant and still do good damage, even though the builds have altered and are, you know, just kind of different at this point, are Freya and Oleron. Freya will be A+ tier, I think. She's pretty damn good. If you can get this character to about 1 or 2 rings, you pretty much will just carry the game. She's pretty good into the meta characters, unless they have like high pressure characters like Uller. But besides that, it's pretty easy to manipulate a wave and, you know, just like not die. She's just a good character, honestly. Even the Hecate, even though the Hecate got nerfed a bunch and Typhons got nerfed, you can just go not Hecate right away and you'll be feeling fine. Yeah, she's just good. You can pick her, but she can also get farmed. So for that reason, she's not S tier, but she's probably high A tier, not A+ tier, because she can be countered quite easily, and she's not like that insane of a pick, but she can do a lot of work into the right comps. And then Oleron, we will put into the back end of A tier. This character was very, very valuable at some point in time, but he went through a very, very large nerf. Even though 10% doesn't seem like a lot, you got to consider that it's 10% throughout the course of the entire game. So the amount of damage you're actually losing is quite large. On top of that, the builds have been nerfed. He's very easy to shut down god, very easy to dive character. When his ultimate's not up, he's kind of just a walking big camp, like a walking harpy for the most part. He's very easy to counter draft. He's pretty easy to 1v1 at this point as well, just because Hecate is not as insane as it was. And all in all, I think the character's marginally worse after the series of nerfs to items and the character himself. So still playable, can probably still do some work, but for the most part, not that insane. And with that in mind, I think that wraps up the tier list. I think this is pretty much, we have all the hunters on here. We have all the mages that I think are actually relevant in high level ranked. And yeah, there's probably a couple other troll picks you can put on here. Maybe I could put Jonqui back on here. Maybe I could put Soul if I wanted to. Kronos, maybe Set, things like that. I don't think Kronos and Soul are worth putting on this list, and just because I don't think they're good. I mentioned that before. So yeah, if you did enjoy this tier list video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me, do you agree? Do you disagree? Tell me where you think I fucked up, where you would put some characters that I put. Like what would you change? And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Until the next video, hope you did enjoy. I'm out. Peace.